All right, so yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk a bit on like your own personal note, but we could try to go of the trading.
Talk about it personally.
Personal, good. All right, good. So yeah, psych bubble. Just describing like the psychology like of a trader. You know, these are just bubbles that in my head I could just pull out and just so we can talk of it, and then we can go a little bit more elaborate. But like obviously, chasing an account balance is one thing. A better style is, let's say you go on YouTube or you talk to your friend and they show you this strategy and now you see it, and then when you see it you're like, dang, that does look really good. And then you go on the chart and you see things that you normally would trade, but then you also see this thing that kind of looks like that one thing. Yeah, and then you start trying that a little too heavily just because you want to see it work. And then value would be not the same as necessarily money. Value would be what is your trading profits going to be used for. Because if you're just chasing the actual money, then it goes back to it being in an account balance psychology and not like a respect the money because it's going to do this for me after. Yeah, and then routine. So routine is like, as a person, you got to have a good headspace. So, whether you're going to the gym, get breakfast, sleep schedule, your environment, things like that, really do like add factors into a lot of this stuff. Your emotions can be a little bit more amplified, depending on who you're around or what you spend your time doing most of the time. So some of the goals that I can think of, right, would be like one is going to be profit. Another one is just a win, right? And then maybe another goal would be like experience. Right. So like these are all potential goals that we could say. Yeah, you could say even maybe like funded. Sometimes people take the funded account and that first part they kind of just throw away all the rules just to get funded as fast as possible. Maybe that could be a goal. Yeah. So on this topic, right, if you make a goal like too big, and that doesn't mean too big as in not achievable, it just means like very big in your psychology, as if like that's the main focus of why you're doing this. When you do that, you will measure progress to how close you are to getting to it, but when you're in trading, it's such a dynamic space. So when you measure a goal, it's always going to be in direct reflection to if you won the trade, if you made profit, or if you have, if you're gaining experience for one day to be able to do one of these two things. And then the other thing is like, how do you actually go about your trading? If it's funded trading, then maybe you don't care about the amount of money the account costs, because it's like super cheap. So if you fail it, you'll just buy another one. Versus if you did put, 10 or 50 grand in your own account, that's like buying power that you're just giving away and now you have to make up for. So a lot of psychological bubbles to pull from when it comes down to like wanting to be in a good headspace when you're trading. But it's not like these all have to be at 100% to have a good trade or to have a good trading day, but they do amplify when you have a bad trading day, because now it's like, damn, I was focused on this or that or that or this, so it's just genuinely about expressing it properly. So, next time when those emotions start to get into your head, how do you talk yourself back into understanding why you were doing this in the first place? Why? Yeah. So like, why are you doing this in the first place? And you start to remind yourself, okay, what? And it's not necessarily about going back to why because you want to quit. You know what I mean? It's not about, I'm gonna quit trading or anything. It's just genuinely a bad trading day. And why is it necessary to have one? And why is it necessary to understand and recap the emotions on them, so that way you can go back and fix these little psychological bubbles, so that way you at least approach tomorrow with maybe just a little bit more patience or like actual proper executions on a strategy, because that's what starts a good routine. And then when that routine comes back in, then you get a better trading style. And when you have a better trading style, you actually do get the value you're looking for from seeing your account balance and, you know, taking this money away. So these are psychological bubbles, but is there any bubbles that you could think of that maybe is not on here for yourself or no? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like a super elaborate thing. The simpler the better, of course, but.
Probably social status as well.
Social? So status?
Social, financial status.
Mm.
Something that comes with that, I guess.
And would this be necessarily like a positive thing for your psychology or a negative thing as a variable? Because like some of these things do flop, you know. If you have a bad routine, it could be negative, you know what I mean? But your value will always be positive, you know, because what you value is always going to be the driving factor. So there's no way that could be negative unless you want to change that value. If you're focused on an account balance, that's always going to be negative, to be honest, because it costs money to do the thing. So it has to go down before it goes up sometimes. Yeah, and then better style. It could be negative because you probably already have something that has been working, and then there's this new thing that is popping up, and then now it's making you have to choose which one is more advantageous, you know. And this comes from like a lot of social proof, like how much have you seen it work, whether it was from previous data or hindsight data, and if you would have did this, then that, how successful or how more probable, you know. So depending on how you start measuring that, you could convince yourself that one thing is just better than the other. Regardless of if it is or not, it's still just about what has been allowing you to understand how you get your value, you know? So maybe earning a better style could make you more money, but making more money doesn't necessarily fit in the value spectrum because the money that you already make consistently is in a routine, you know? So like why change it if you're getting the value you need for the moment until your value changes when you need more money, if that makes sense? Obviously more money means faster, you know, speed and things, but sometimes it's not about trying to go faster. It's about just knowing that this is working right now until you've made enough cushion for yourself to do something different, you know? Yeah, so status. I think this would be a choppy one because it's like, if you add good status, I think that adds more confidence, but sometimes confidence on a bad routine or a style that's not really solidified could be
could be
official.
Could also force you to take trades that you don't necessarily believe in.
So we'll go with more of a negative than positive, I guess? Okay.
What's your thoughts on taking like certain, so obviously there's lots of different trading styles. Do you believe that certain trading styles are suited for different people?
Yeah,
or
like
you
in
feel
superiority?
like they can all be adapted to?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, trading styles they're all adaptable because they're only made up of the same kind of stuff. It's just where does your brain hyper fixate? You know, that's where we end up like trying to get entries or we try to get exits. These are areas where we look at them and for some reason we say, dang, like I think the market's gonna do something around here, you know? So depending on your trading style, you'd be looking for certain things on the market to be made, but depending on how that market went about that level, it's still gonna pick an up or down direction anyway. So did you get your entry model or the things that you normally look for in order to press the button, you know, with the right risk parameters? I think that's the biggest aspect. So if I were to rephrase my answer, I think trading styles are all risk management based more than they are about like superiority or per person.